We're not running a charity for veterans, the manager yelled, his voice sharp enough to cut through the terminal's dull roar. The cost of that ticket is coming out of your paycheck. And don't bother coming in tomorrow. Sarah's only crime had been to help an old soldier who was trying to get home. But what that manager didn't know was that single bus ticket would bring a military convoy to his station the very next morning. Sarah Adams wasn't the kind of person you noticed in a crowd, and that was exactly how she liked it. At 24, she worked behind the counter at the Crossroads bus terminal, a place that felt like the crossroads of the entire world's weariness. The air was thick with the smell of diesel fumes, stale popcorn, and the faint, lingering scent of desperation. The constant, droning announcements of arrivals and departures were the station's melancholy heartbeat. For most, this was a place of transit, a non-place between a past and a future. But for Sarah, it was a place of observation. From behind the plexiglass of her booth, she saw the universe of human emotion play out daily. Tearful goodbyes, joyful reunions, and the quiet, lonely travelers who, like her, seemed to be a permanent fixture, forever waiting for a bus that would take them somewhere better. She had a secret, profound empathy for the soldiers who passed through. It was a trait inherited from her grandfather, a Vietnam vet who had been a quiet man with loud eyes that told stories he never spoke. He had taught her that the heaviest burdens are the ones you can't see, and that a person's true character is revealed not in how they celebrate victory, but in how they carry their scars. He'd sit on his porch, polishing his old service boots, and tell her, "Sarah, the uniform comes off, but the honor stays in your soul. You learn to see it in others." Every time she saw a soldier, young or old, she saw a piece of her grandfather, and her heart would ache with a quiet, inherited respect. That Tuesday afternoon was brutally slow. The fluorescent lights hummed with an irritating buzz. The plastic chairs were filled with tired bodies, and Sarah was in the 7th hour of a grueling double shift. Her boss, Mr. Henderson, had already been on a rampage, yelling at a cleaner for leaving a streak on the floor. He was a man who saw people not as humans, but as entries on a balance sheet, and his only metric for a good day was profit. Sarah tried to tune him out, focusing instead on the human stories before her. Then, the automatic doors hissed open, and an old man shuffled in, seeming to carry the weight of the world on his stooped shoulders. He wore a faded army green jacket, decades old, with the ghost of an insignia on the sleeve where a patch used to be. His back was bent with age and fatigue. His hands trembled slightly, and his eyes, though tired, held a spark of unyielding pride. He moved slowly, respectfully, as if not wanting to disturb the chaotic flow of the terminal. Most people instinctively stepped away from him, their eyes quickly averting, judging him by his worn-out clothes and unshaven face. But Sarah saw him. Through the lens of her grandfather's teachings, she saw the way he stood, the subtle military posture that age could not erase. She saw the invisible metals behind the tired gaze. He waited patiently in her line, never complaining, his eyes scanning the departures board. When it was his turn, he placed a handful of crumpled bills and coins on the counter, a small, sad pile. "One way to Fort Baxter, please, ma'am," he said, his voice raspy but polite. Sarah typed in the destination, and the price flashed on the screen, $30.50. She carefully counted the money. The total came to exactly $20. He was short. By $12.50, the old man's face fell, not with anger, but with a quiet, profound disappointment that seemed to age him another 10 years right before her eyes. I thought I had enough," he whispered, more to himself than to her. He began to slowly gather his money, his pride clearly wounded, his shoulders slumping even further. He was about to turn and walk away, defeated. In that moment, Sarah's heart broke. She saw her grandfather standing there, too proud to ask for help. The company policy, the strict rules of Mr. Henderson, they all faded away into an insignificant hum. "But you won't believe this. She made a decision that would change everything." She pushed the money back towards the old man. "Don't worry about it, sir," she said, with a warm, genuine smile that didn't quite reach her worried eyes. She pulled her own worn wallet from under the counter, took out a precious $20 bill she had been saving for groceries, and fed it into the register. She printed the ticket and slid it across the counter. "Here you go. Your bus leaves from Gate 7 in 20 minutes. It's the last one. Tonight." The old man stared at her, then at the ticket, his eyes welling up with tears he refused to let fall. He didn't say thank you. He couldn't seem to form the words. He simply took her hand for a brief moment, his calloused, trembling fingers squeezing hers with a pressure that conveyed a lifetime of gratitude. And then he turned and walked toward the gate. But this small act of compassion would not go unpunished. From his glass-walled office overlooking the ticketing counters, Mr. Henderson had seen the entire exchange. His eyes narrowed like a hawk's. He stormed out, his face red with fury. He waited until Sarah's line was clear, then slammed his palm on the counter with a crack that made her jump. "What was that, Adams?" he demanded. "What did I tell you about unauthorized discounts? I run a business, not a homeless shelter." Sarah stood her ground, her voice quiet but firm. "He was a veteran, Mr. Henderson. He was short on cash. I covered it with my own money. It didn't cost the company a thing." That's when he yelled the words that made the whole station go quiet. "I don't care. It's the principle. We're not running a charity for veterans." "He's probably some con artist who never served a day in his life." He pointed a trembling finger at her. "The cost of that ticket is coming out of your paycheck. And don't bother coming in tomorrow. You're fired." A few people in the station stared, then quickly looked away, burying their faces in their phones, wanting no part of the confrontation. Sarah felt a sting of humiliation, but no regret. She simply nodded, took off her name badge, placed it on the counter, and walked out of the terminal without looking back. The automatic doors hissing shut behind her like a final, indifferent goodbye. The next morning, the Crossroads bus terminal was about to receive a different kind of passenger. At precisely 9 a.m., 3 immaculate black SUVs with government plates pulled up to the curb in a perfect, silent formation. The doors opened in unison, and out stepped a dozen soldiers in full-dress uniform. They moved with a discipline and purpose that made the entire terminal stop and stare. The last man to exit the lead vehicle was a full-bird colonel. His uniform was razor-sharp, his chest was adorned with medals, and his expression was as hard as granite. He hadn't seen the biggest surprise yet. But Mr. Henderson, watching from his office, felt a cold knot of dread form in his stomach. The colonel entered the terminal, his polished boots clicking on the linoleum floor with an unnerving rhythm. He didn't look around. He walked straight to the counter where Sarah had worked. "I'm looking for the manager," he said, his voice calm but commanding absolute authority. Mr. Henderson rushed out, wiping his sweaty palms on his trousers and forcing a nervous smile. "I'm the manager. How can I help you, Colonel?" The colonel didn't smile back. "My name is Colonel Evans, commander of Fort Baxter. I'm here about one of your employees, a young woman named Sarah Adams." Henderson's blood ran cold. "Ms. Adams is no longer employed here," he stammered. "There was a disciplinary issue yesterday." And it was at this exact moment that everything changed. The colonel's eyes narrowed into dangerous slits. "A disciplinary issue? Is that what you call an act of honor?" He held up a copy of the bus ticket from the previous night. "Yesterday, an old man, a decorated veteran of 2 wars, was stranded in your station trying to get to my base. He was my father. He was coming to see his grandson, my son, ship out for his first deployment." The entire terminal was now silent, everyone listening to every word. "My father is a proud man," the colonel continued, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone. "He would never ask for a handout. He called me last night and told me he was about to give up and turn back, but that an angel working here showed him a kindness he hadn't seen in years. Your clerk, Ms. Adams, didn't offer him a handout. She offered him dignity. She saw a soldier, not a beggar. And for that you fired her." Henderson was speechless, his face pale and clammy. I didn't know." "You didn't know," the colonel repeated, the words dripping with contempt. "That's the point. She didn't know either. She helped him not because of who he was, but because of what he represented. That's called character, something you clearly know nothing about. Henderson's career was over, and he knew it, but the story doesn't end there. Colonel Evans found Sarah at her small apartment. He didn't just thank her. He offered her a new job, A civilian position at Fort Baxter, managing the new Family Welcome Center, a place dedicated to helping soldiers and their families during their transitions. Her new job was to do exactly what she did best: offer kindness and dignity to those who served. The old veteran's ticket wasn't just a path home for him. It became a new path forward for Sarah. A single act of kindness, a ticket bought with compassion, ended up changing a life, correcting an injustice, and reminding an entire military base what honor truly looks like. Kindness and merit are recorded even when they go unnoticed. To continue hearing stories that prove it, don't forget to follow the Merit Ledger and leave a comment about a time when a small act of kindness made a huge difference, because every life is a record worth reading.